In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a new patriotic star using the Rainbow Loom. So this is what it looks like. I have chosen red, white, and blue for the colors. You can choose whatever colors you like if you want to choose the colors of your flag, or really any colors that you think look nice together. So you will need 45 red bands, or whatever color you want for the points of the stars. And you'll need 40 white bands for the next color. And then you will need 27 blue bands, or whatever color you want the very center of your star to be. So you want to have your loom set up with the pins in a staggered position so they're not in line with one another. And you want the opened ends to be facing you, so the arrows will be facing you. And we're going to start with the color that you have for the center of the star. So I have blue. And I'm going to place it on the left-hand row on the 7th pin up from the bottom. And it is going to go to the next pin above that. And the next band is going to go from this pin and move diagonally up into the middle. I'm going to make all of these blue. And then from the center here, I'm coming diagonally down and to the right. And then from here, I'm coming straight down. And then finally, I want a band to go straight across from the left to the right to connect this shape. It's going to look like a little house or a pentagon. And so now I'm going to place the first arm of the star on. So for the rest of this, I'm going to be using 2 bands at once. I'm going to stick with that center color. So I'm just taking 2 blue bands, and they're going to go from this first pin where we placed our first band, and it's going to go to the pin below. So I'm taking both bands and putting them on together. And now I'm going to switch to white. Again, I want 2 bands at once. I'm always working coming down towards myself. And now another set of white bands. It's coming down towards the bottom. And now I'm switching to red, so I have 2 bands coming down. And then finally 2 more bands that will come down. I want to push all of these rubber bands to the bottom of the pins. And now I'm going to repeat that pattern again, and I'm going to do it on the same row here. So I'm getting 2 more blue, and they're going to go right on top of where I placed the other blue. Again, I'm working down towards myself. So now I have 2 white, and 2 more white. And now I'm switching to the red. And finally 2 more red. And now I want to place a cap band on the end here. So I'm going to take a red band, and I want to either triple or quadruple this band. If your bands are loose, I would quadruple it, meaning wrap it around 4 times. If you feel like you're struggling with that, you can just triple it and do it 3 times. So I'm going to do 4. So I'm placing it on my hook. I'm going to twist and put it back on, twist, put it back on, twist, and put it back on. So you'll see 4 rubber bands on my hook. And now I'm going to just get this to go on the top of this pin. It's going to be tight. And so now I want to start to loop this top layer. So I'm not doing anything to the bottom layer. I'm just worried about the top. So I'm putting my hook down through, pushing back on these top 4 bands since I quadrupled this. And I'm grabbing these next 2 bands in line. I'm going to hold this in place so it doesn't come off. And I'm moving that up. And now I'm just going to work my way up here till I get to that first blue set of bands that I placed on. So I'm being careful only to grab the top 2 rubber bands. And now I'm at the beginning here. So now what I want to do is I want to remove some of the top bands. So starting on the end here, I'm leaving this one on the very end. And then on the next 2 pins, I'm also leaving them on. So really it's where all of the red is. And now I'm going to place my thumb over top of this pin because I don't want the bands to come off here. And now I'm going to take my hook and go down through these blue bands. Make sure that I get all 4 bands on my hook. And now I'm going to remove the ones that I had looped here. And I'm going to take this, it's going to be tight, but I'm going to do a long stretch. And I want these 4 bands to go on this pin on the right hand side where I have those underneath blue bands. You want to make sure that all 4 rubber bands make it on. And I'm just going to move it alongside of this pin here. And so now I'm going to go back to the start here and I'm going to loop this lower layer. So I'm going down inside of this cap band, I'm grabbing the bottom 2 and they're going to come up through and move ahead. And now this pin is pretty full. You're just going down through, grabbing the bottom 2, it's going to come up through all the rest and it's just going to move up. And I'm just going to work my way up here, just grabbing the bottom 2. And now I'm at the end here. So now I want to remove all of these bands that I looped. So again, I'm going to place my thumb over top of this pin. I'm just going to carefully pull these off. And then this is just going to sit here. And this is going to be one arm of the star. And so I have to do this pattern 4 more times. So this time I'm going to go to that next pin up and that's where I'm going to start the pattern. So just make sure the bands on this pin are pushed down since it's going to get full because we're going to be adding more layers on top. So I'm taking the 2 blue bands starting here and I'm just going to work my way down towards myself. And now I'll do 2 sets of white. So there's the first one. And now a second. And now I have 2 sets of red. And now I'm going back to the top here and repeating that again, just putting it right on the top. So I have the 2 blue. Again, this is very full. And now I'll do white. And then finally red. And then on the end here, again, I want to put a cap band. So I am going to quadruple it. Again, if you feel like your bands are really tight and you struggle with this, you can just triple it. Just placing it right on the top here. And so now I'm going to loop this upper layer. So I'm putting my hook in and pushing back on the top 4 bands, that cap band, grabbing these top 2 red, pulling them up through, and now I'm just going to loop this top layer. Just make sure you don't grab any of the bottom layer. And all of these blue bands are pretty full on this pin. You're just grabbing the top 2. And so now once again, I'm going to go to the end. I'm going to go to this third pin up from the end. That's where I'm going to place my thumb because I don't want those bands to come off. And I'm going to reach my hook down through these blue bands. I'm getting the top 4. Make sure it's just the top 4. I'm going to pull these off of the pin. And now I can't exactly put these bands where I need them to go. So for right now I'm just going to have to put them somewhere as a holding place. So I'll just put them on the top of this pin. Make sure they all 4 make it on there. And we'll move that at the end. And so now I'm going back here to the one that's closest to me. And we're going to loop this lower layer. So I'm just pulling these red bands up through. This is tight since we quadrupled that cap band. Just being careful as you're doing this. And now you're grabbing the next 2 blue that are on the top. Make sure you're not getting any of those bottom ones. And so now I'm going to place my thumb over top of this pin, and I can pull these all off of the loom. And now, as I've said, this one we stuck here just as a placeholder. We need it to go over here to the left. So I'm just going to very carefully get these 4 blue bands on my hook, and now I can just move them over and get them on this pin. Just make sure they all 4 get on. Looks like I missed one. Let me just get it over here. Okay. And now I'll move to this next pin up here. I'm going to repeat this pattern. So I'm starting with the blue, and I'm always coming down towards myself. And now I'll do 2 sets of white. And then 2 sets of red. And now I'm going back up and doing that same pattern right on top. So I have the 2 blue, and now white, and finally red. And now I'm putting on that cap band. It's going right on the end. And now I'm looping this top layer. So I'm getting just the top 2 bands, getting them to come up through the cap band and move ahead. And finally the blue. And now I am going to the end here, and again I want to count to that 3rd pin up. That's where I'm going to place my thumb, and I'm going to take these 4 blue bands and they're going to come off of this pin. Take all of these off that are above my thumb, and once again I'm just going to have to place these on a pin just as a placeholder. So I'll put them on this pin right here to the right to get all of those bands to go through. It's a little bit tricky since you're dealing with so many bands. And now I can finish looping this bottom layer. These are tighter at the end where you're going up through both sets of bands. And so I'm putting my thumb over here, and I can pull the rest of this off. You also want to make sure that the bands aren't coming off of this pin either. And now I can get these rubber bands back on this hook. Get these blue bands, just that top layer. And I can slide it in the right position, so I want them to go here. So just sliding this all up. And I want all 4 of these blue bands to make it on top of this pin. I'm going to just stretch this out to get it out of the way. So there's another part of the star done. And I want to push the bands on this center pin all the way down to the bottom, because I am going to add the next layer on that pin as well. So I'm doing the 2 blue, and I'm working on this center row. And now I have the white, and then the red, and now I'm doing the second layer on top of that. So again, this pin is going to get very full. And now the red. And I'm going to put the cap band on. And now I'm looping that top layer. So I'm getting these top 4 bands behind my hook, grabbing the next 2 in line. It's going to loop these top 2. Just be careful when you get to pins that are really full that you're only grabbing the top 2 bands. And now again, at the start here, the ones that are closest to me, I'm going to the 3rd pin up where the end of the red is. I'm sticking my thumb on there. And now I'm going down through the blue, and I'm grabbing the top 4 here, the ones that I just looped. And I'm taking the bands off that I looped up to where my thumb is. And now this time I need to put the bands on a pin as a holding space, but I need it to be on the left hand side here. So I'm just going to go to this empty pin here, and I'll just place these bands right on top to make sure that they all get on there. And now I'm going to loop this bottom layer. So I'm starting on the end closest to me. And I'll just work my way up here. Again, make sure you're just grabbing the bottom 2 of that layer. And so now I'm going to place my thumb over top of this pin. And I also want them not to come off of this pin, so it's a little tricky. I'm actually going to put my thumb over this pin and my pointer finger over this pin, just so I don't have any of these come off of the pins. I'm just going to release these. And now I'm going to pick these 4 blue bands back up, and I'm going to slide this around. And now these 4 blue bands, I'm losing one. The 4 blue bands are going to go on this pin. And now I'm going to just stretch this up over this other pin just to get it out of the way. And we have one more to do, which is going to be the arm that goes out this way. So I'm starting on the top pin on the right, and I'm taking the 2 blue, and I'm just going to work my way down here. Again, these pins are full. And now the red. And now I'm going to do the second layer, starting on this pin at the top here. And now I'm placing on a cap band. Putting it right on top. And now I'm going to loop the top layer, pushing back on the cap band, getting these top 2 bands. Going all the way up to the last blue one here. And now I'm placing my thumb on the 3rd pin up from the end here, closest to me, getting these blue bands, the top 4. I'm going to release these ones I looped, and I'm going to have to move it over. Again, it's not going to stay here, I just need this to move out of the way. Get all 4 bands to sit on the pin here. Now I can loop the rest. And this last blue one here. And now I'm going to place my thumb over top of the pin here. And I also don't want them to come off of this one, so I'm sort of going to put it over both. And I can remove these. And now I need these blue bands that I had placed here just as a holding place to move over to the right. So I'm going to get those 4 blue bands on my hook. And now I'm going to get them to go right on top here. And I'm going to slide this out. And so now it's starting to look like a star. So now the last thing I have to do is loop the bands that I had placed on first in this pentagon shape. So we had started here and we worked our way all the way around. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to work my way backwards. So I'm going to reach down through this pin on the left, and I'm going to get this blue band. It might be a little bit hard to see which one you want. You're going to go through all of these upper blue bands, and then at the very bottom you'll see the 2 blue bands. I'm grabbing this top one and I'm going to stretch it back over to the right. It's a long stretch, so just be careful with that. And now I'm just going to continue to go down through. See if I can get a better angle here. And I'm grabbing this very bottom one here. It's coming out through and moving up. Again, I'm going to go down through all of these upper bands and get the one at the bottom. Move that over to the left. And again, I'm going down through, pushing back on all of these top bands, grabbing that bottom one, pulling it out and moving it over to the left. And then I have one more to do, so I'm going down through. And this time you can see this bottom band is wrapped around the back side of the pin, so it's going to be a little bit harder to grab. I'm going to have to reach my hook out to the side and hook that band, and then release it from the pin very carefully, and I'm going to move it down. And so now this is where my loose ends are going to be, right here. So I'm going to take my hook and put it down through all of these rubber bands, push my hook out to the side. I'm taking another blue band, and I'm going to pull it up through. Put the loose end back on my hook, so now I have the two ends. And now I can very carefully remove this from all of the pins. And so now I'm going to take one other blue band, and I'm just going to get it on my hook, and I'm going to pull it through the two blue bands that are already on my hook. I'm going to put that loose end back on. I'm going to slide the bottom end through the other one and make a slip knot. And you might have to just take a minute to straighten these out. And then here is my star. So you can see where the loop is. It's going to hang this way. But if you wanted to hang it from the top, all you would have to do is take this loop and just loop it through some of the bands on the back to hide it, and then you could take another band and loop it through the top here, and then you could get it to hang this way. And then I'll show you some other ones that I had made. This one I used red and white and green in the center. And then here's another one that I made where I just used all yellow. And this one is one shorter than these, so instead of going the length of 5 rubber bands for each arm of the star, I only went the length of 4 rubber bands. So it's just a little bit smaller. I hope that everyone enjoyed making their stars. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!